What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, or you're listening on the podcast, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If that is something you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below, both on Spotify and on YouTube. Do you think that the quarterback derby is real at Ohio State? Also want to talk a little bit about the quarterback that we know will be QB1 at Iowa and whether or not that makes Iowa a college football playoff contender. Want to talk a little bit about Shedeur Sanders and this comparison to another Big 12 quarterback that might be fair, might not be fair. And let's talk about Deion Sanders and our issue with his health. Let's start with this. Let's start with Ohio State is sure they're having a quarterback competition. They are sure that Lincoln Kienholz and Julian Sayin are competing for the starting job going into 2025. And as Ohio State is the defending champ, and they're looking to get rid of this 0-4 against Michigan, we got our eyes set on this one. But I think that this quarterback competition is going to look a lot like the one that we saw with C.J. Stroud, Kyle McCord, so forth, so on. We already know who we think the guy is going to be, right? We think it's going to be Julian Sayin. But not unlike Joey Aguilar and Jake McNamara and George McIntyre at Tennessee, you don't want to give the job to a guy that isn't clearing away your best option at quarterback. And that's not necessarily true in the case of Joey Aguilar at Tennessee, who joined up in the spring, or with Julian Sayin, who spent last year behind Will Howard, and Lincoln Kienholz was fourth string on that team. Now, Devin Brown and Aaron Nolan cleared out, right? Aaron Nolan looks like the heir apparent for Lenore Sellers at South Carolina, and Devin Brown, we think, is probably going to win the starting job at Cal. Means that you're going to be looking at these two veterans to lead you. But I thought it was interesting what they had to say on Friday as they were helping coordinate a camp, and 11 Warriors did a great job doing a write-up on this. But I was really more interested in what Kienholz had to say about this competition than I was Julian Sayin, although Sayin was the first person to say, hey, it's competition. Like, we are very much competing for this, and we're helping each other out as much as we can. But you should know we are entering the preseason knowing that we're probably going to share snaps to start, and then we'll expect Ryan Day and Brian Hartline and Billy Fessler to have some things to say about who pulls away and just win, because I don't know if you know, they got this little game against Texas for their week 1 opener where they probably need to know who the quarterback is going to be. So what is it that Kienholz had to say about this? It's been really good. I'm getting stronger, faster, and I think my body and my mind are in the right spot going in the fall camp. I like hearing that from Lincoln Kienholz because the last time that we saw that dude play a game in earnest, he was overwhelmed by Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. Now, things just weren't going according to plan, right? Devin Brown got hurt and wasn't looking that great, and then Lincoln Kienholz is out of the frying pan into the fire. Even so, Ohio State made that into a game while Missouri succeeded in getting, say, Cody Schrader to continue to play into January, which is not something that we expected to see until name, image, and likeness came along. But guys have NFL futures decide to protect them by going, hey, look, I'm done playing college football forever. So good luck to you going to the Cotton Bowl. Maybe Lincoln Kienholz has become a better player since then. I sincerely hope so. After having that national championship run where you get to see Will Howard not just lead the team to a national championship. This is the part that I think is important. You saw what he did after the loss to Oregon, and it wasn't exactly get up and get after it the next day. He spent some time alone, quite literally, in the dark. He need to call his mom. Mom came down there to come see him, pick him back up, remind him how good he is. And by the time we get around to December, we're talking about Will Howard reaching that upper level where his mind, body, and soul must be one, because that dude played lights out 4 consecutive games. He did not have a dud. He was absolutely seeing it and making it happen with his legs and with his arm. You learn a lot watching your starting quarterback come back from that, and to know that he's a grad transfer, that he knows how to win, and that he can teach you all the traits that you need to have for winning, I think puts them in a great spot. So knowing that both of those guys have had that front row seat to watching Will Howard lead this team to a championship, knowing that you got Jeremiah Smith over there, knowing you got Carnell Tate over there, along with Brandon Ennis, Quincy Porter, we expect to come along with Mylan Graham. They add Max Clare, who we think is the best tight end in the portal. And you're going to be pretty good at the tailback position. CJ Donaldson, James Peoples, we think are going to start out there. And then you're going to return a bunch of guys that played a bunch of football because they had to last year, right? I think all of this is working to the good. But I also think that Lincoln Kienholz believes that it's his time to step up and take some ownership and responsibility for this football team. One of the reasons that I think that is he said it. Honestly, I think it's more like a responsibility to kind of take over as a leader and I guess just kind of be that guy they can lean on. Kienholz. Okay. There are lots of ways to do that. Being a glue guy, being a locker room guy is one way of doing that. Having your head wrapped around the playbook, what it's going to be, it's going to do that. But also, winning the starting quarterback job, not a bad act either. Really, this is going to be, for me, more of an evaluation of Brian Hartline's style as a play caller and Billy Fessler's style as quarterbacks coach as to how they decide to go about finding out who the guy should be for their program. Like, I get Ryan Day is still Ryan Day, head coach, offensive genius himself, but we saw what it looked like when he gave the play calling privileges to Chip Kelly last year, and it worked, right? It worked. Now they need to change what they were doing mid-season from being, hey, we're just going to try to run the ball and be as physical as we can, into one that says, we got number 4 and you don't, and start feeding that guy the rock. Like, we all maintain that if Will Howard had just thrown the ball in the direction of Jeremiah Smith more often against Michigan, they probably win that game as tight as it was. You learn this a little too late, and I don't think they're going to wait to learn this against Texas. I'm also curious about the combination of Hartline and Fessler, because hearing Steve Sarkisian talk about what quarterbacks coach A.J. Milwee has meant to him is illuminating, because Milwee has been a part of that program and been a part of what Sark has been doing since he got there. And he's gone out of his way to say, look, I trust that guy to do things in my stead, which is one of the highest compliments that any coach can pay another one. For Ryan Day, this was Larry Johnson Sr. for a while, right? Or I guess it still could be. Bringing in Chip Kelly, a mentor, to run your offense means you don't have to worry about it either. Has he got there with Brian Hartline? Has Brian Hartline got there with Billy Fessler, right? Like, that's all going to be very interesting to watch. We're also going to find out what it's like for Brian Hartline to put together a play calling rhythm and a tempo that he enjoys and that he thinks can make go for him. As I'm continuing to take a look at just what I can expect from, I don't know, a Lincoln Kienholz that we haven't seen play since the Cotton Bowl, and a Julian Sayin that we knew Nick Saban wanted to have on the menu come, 2023, but couldn't get to him. You would expect Julian Sayin to be the guy here, right? You would expect the guy that was coming out of Carlsbad, who was one of the best players in the country, top quarterback in the country in the 2024 class, a guy that they really wanted at Bama to relieve Jalen Milroe, when Jalen Milroe threw those picks against Texas and couldn't quite get it done. You'd expect that guy to win, right? You would expect that guy to be the guy. But if there's something that Lincoln Kienholz has been working on that we just don't know about, I'd love to see it. We could give you stats. We could give you playmaking abilities. I think Lincoln Kienholz might be the better athlete, but being the better quarterback is still something that he needs to show. Now's the time. And that's the thing. He stuck it out. He didn't go into the transfer portal. He believes he's got a chance to win the job, and he believes he's got a chance to play. And if those things are true, now is the time to show them. Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you are here and you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do that. If you're listening on the podcast, go ahead and rate the podcast, give it 5 stars. Also going to get to start doing a few more live shows here, and that means that we're probably going to be reading some advertisements from here and there from time to time. I do want to spend some time talking about Mark Gronowski, and we will get to both the Sanders and the the Sanders stories. The one about Shedeur Sanders at Cleveland is just kind of interesting to me. But Shedeur Sanders being what he is, and them drafting where they drafted him, 5th round. He's the 4th string quarterback right now. And then our fascination with Deion Sanders' health is kind of, well, I think worth us having this conversation about. But first, always want to get your MBA. What's the holdup? If it's tuition fees, let me tell you, the folks at Get Money Management Institute have a deal for you. At the Get Money Management Institute, they've just slashed their entrance fee, late fee, slushy fee, and your fee by 50%. That's right. That's what it says here in the script. It's now officially affordable to get your MBA at the Get Money Management Institute. Secure your space in their MBA program today at the Get Money Management Institute. It just takes one phone call to get this online degree that's not worth the effort to blow your nose with it. Mention RJ said, stack that bread, get fed. You better get this money. You better boss up and receive an additional 20% off at the online campus e-bookstore. Secure your future with the GMMI MBA, or as they call it, a Master Badass Diploma today. Some restrictions may apply, absolutely positively. No refunds. Get Money Management Institute coming through. A&R. All right. Let's talk about Mark Gronowski in Iowa. I, like Iowa fans, have been begging for a long time. It feels like since like Ricky Stanfield. Can we get a quarterback in here? I mean, I guess CJ Beathard counts here, but can we get a quarterback? Can we get a functioning quarterback? We go from, can we get a functioning offense? And they got one, right? Caleb Johnson was the offense last year. So can we get a quarterback where we can push the ball down the field? Not a lot. We're not trying to be 2009 Texas Tech over here, but we would like the addition of the forward pass to be reliable, if nothing else. Because we know what Phil Parker's defense is going to be. Lights out. Each and every year, he produces studs. He goes and gets studs. Last year, it was Jay Higgins, who had, 1 million tackles at Old Dominion, goes to Iowa, has 1 million tackles at Iowa. Seb Castro's come through there, right? You've heard me wax poetic about Riley Moss. You heard me talk about what Cooper DeJean can do for you at Iowa. And you've heard me talk about what Aaron Graves can be. Now get me a quarterback that they can look up to. And I think they got that in Mark Gronowski. Mark Gronowski could be the difference between Iowa being a college football playoff team and Iowa just being okay. Iowa's going to be okay. We know this. Kirk Ferentz is going to play the style of football that gets you 8 wins. If I got to compare, and I do, Dave Doran at NC State is Kirk Ferentz at Iowa. 7, 8, 9 wins. You can pretty much count on that. Can you count on them to win the ACC championship, Big Ten championship? Probably not. Could they make that game? When there was an East and a West, I don't think so anymore. But could they be the 3rd or 4th team in? Could they be Indiana this year? Yes, with Mark Gronowski. Why? Because Mark Gronowski's a stud. Over 10,000 yards passing South Dakota State, over 1,700 yards rushing, 130 career TDs. The dude shows up and he wins. That's the most important part of this. He doesn't make losing a habit. I tend to believe that if you're a winner, winning follows you around. Winning likes to keep winning. It's a habit. It's not luck, right? There are things that he's doing every single day that have put him and the team he is quarterbacking in position to win those games. More than anything else, though, Jimmy Rogers was putting together a South Dakota State that ran the football. That's why I'm excited about what Washington State could be in the years to come. You've also seen a bunch of these South Dakota State players move up. When Jimmy Rogers took the job at Washington State, not everybody went with him. And a couple of studs have made their way to the Big Ten, including a wide receiver at Northwestern and an offensive coordinator at Northwestern. But Gronowski is going to play for the Black and Gold. I love this. I love this because he's a winner, and it's not just that he has been prolific, it's that he fits the culture, right? He is going to get it out the mud. He's going to outwork you. He's going to be a workman-like quarterback, and I don't think you can have anything else at Iowa. I believe that programs take on the character of their head coach, and Kirk Ferentz is a guy that does not like to take chances, and he values effort. He values work ethic. When you look at Gronowski, you're not going to see a guy that is throwing the ball to other people. You're not going to see a dude that is careless with the football. You're going to see a guy that's probably going to be in sync with Tim Lester in the way that you would hope. But also, you're going to see a leader at the quarterback position for the first time since Cade McNamara was not hurt. Again, these are things that Iowa has craved. And I keep thinking about that 2023 Iowa football team and that defense and going, my God, what would have happened if they just had a functioning offense? But we also got a Kirk Ferentz who doesn't like interceptions and certainly doesn't care to throw the ball into the end zone. Okay. You go to Iowa to play wide receiver. I don't think they should call it wide receiver anymore. I think they should call it flanker, because the offense is just not going to be one where I see Mark Gronowski throw for 3,000 yards. I just don't see that happening. Could he be a 2,000, 1,000 guy? Also not likely. Like, it's more likely that he's like a 2,500, 600 guy. But that's because the number of snaps that they're going to get as an offense are not going to be as many as others. Like, if you look at Iowa and you see what could be Michigan, yeah, that's where we're at. I think 2023 Michigan and the style of offense and defense they played could be what Iowa is light, right? I don't think they'll be as dominant up front, and I don't think they'll be as gifted on the back end, but they will be competitive, and they will probably beat somebody they're not supposed to. Now, can you get them into a spot where that matters? Can you get them into a spot where we're asking the question, is Iowa going to be playing in the college football playoff come November, when we get to say not the first week of the college football playoff rankings, but the second? Will they be in that conversation? Remains to be seen, right? Remains to be seen. But I really like him. I do. And I really like this get as a grad transfer. I don't know that they're going to be able to continue to get Mark Gronowski's, though. And that's the worry. But that's a 2026 problem. In 2025, get that dude healthily to a football field, and let's see what the offense can do. And we're not asking for a lot here, because I think that the defense is going to be giving up 17 points or fewer, probably fewer, being conservative on that number. But if you can be the kind of offense that scores 28 a game, it's easy for me to see you winning 10, even with the schedule you have, right? That's not hard. I mean, going to Iowa to play is still difficult as hell. Like, one of my favorite atmospheres, frankly. Iowa, Michigan was fun. Now, Michigan won that game, but when I went there, 2022, that was fun. I think they can continue to do that. I got to walk around with Dallas Clark and make jokes for a little while. That was cool. I don't know where that video went, but you should go check it out because it was a lot of fun. And if we continue to get something like a, otherworldly tight end, mentioning Dallas Clark, thinking about George Kittle, so on, maybe that is the way in which the passing game ignites itself and we get to see it. But for now, don't be shocked if we are talking about Iowa playing playoff football in November. In fact, this might be their best chance to do just that. Going to talk a little bit about Deion Sanders' health in a minute. And I also want to get to this comp that is, Shedeur Sanders is like this Big 12 quarterback, like this 7th-round draft pick. Probably see where we're going with this and why I think that is kind of a backhanded compliment, but we'll get to that just a second. More reads. Pimp ain't easy marketing conference. Does your business need to rank higher in the search engines? Do you want everything your company touches to turn to gold? If the answer is yes to either of those questions, and your business needs to get your act together at the Pimpin' Ain't Easy Marketing Conference, attend keynote speeches made by marketing gurus like Bishop Don Juan and Pimp named Slickback. Participate in workshops and learn more about your target market and how you can get their attention in our high-tech world from such renowned professionals like Craig's girlfriend, Joy's sister-in-law's baby cousin, Tracy. This event is not free and neither are your meals. So if you are broke booty Buster Brown, this might not be your get down. Only real get money hustlers need apply at the Pimpin' Ain't Easy marketingconference.com. All right, let's talk about Shedeur Sanders, who is 4th on the depth chart at Cleveland, with Joe Flacco taking the lead, Kenny Pickett in 2nd, Dylan Gabriel in 3rd, and you know how it goes. Mostly it's Joe Flacco has shown that there's still some juice left in his arm and his legs, and he is talking like the kind of man who expects to do something like Aaron Rodgers, I guess, be Tom Brady. Cool. Kenny Pickett ain't looked like that guy since he was drafted. And that was when he was throwing passes to Jordan Addison in an offense that was built around, we're going to feed the ball to Jordan Addison. Mark Whipple didn't make, no bones about it. It was, no, we're going to get the ball to our best player as often as we possibly can. I love that as an offensive philosophy. Identifying who your best offensive weapon is at Cleveland, that's the job. And then which quarterback does the best job of getting that guy the ball, right? I think drafting Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round and then drafting Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round because you see value there is an interesting proposition. Andrew Berry thinks there's something there. But is it something worth, comparing to 49ers starting quarterback in Brock Purdy? He didn't do this. Mary Kay Cabot and her colleagues at Cleveland.com did. They're telling us that the ceiling for Shedeur Sanders is Brock Purdy, right? And 7th round draft pick who is able to beat out guys like Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo for the starting job with the San Francisco 49ers. I think this had more to do with Kyle Shanahan than it did Brock Purdy. But when you look at it and you see finally my man got paid something like $182 million, it was rough going there for a while. Now, the world is much different for Shedeur Sanders financially than it was for Brock Purdy when he entered the league. I mean, I think Brock Purdy still had roommates as a starting quarterback in San Francisco, which is wild. First, the rent is too damn high. Second, pay that man. I mean, you got to get him living right, okay? But when you're talking about someone who takes care of the football, who is good with his decisions and given time to scan the field, is going to make plays. You're talking about Shedeur Sanders. Like, I get that the jersey retirement still gets onto people's skin at Colorado, but the fact is the dude was best offense player in the Big 12 last year. He's throwing passes to a Heisman Trophy winner. And that is, by definition, what you were looking for. A guy who can get the ball to the best player on the field as often as possible. Doesn't mean other guys don't make catches. I mean, Jonte Wester had more than 70. Will Shepard had a bunch of catches. Jimmy Horn was productive. It meant that Travis Hunter had 96 catches, something like 14 TDs, 15 TDs, right? We're also talking about a guy that has learned how to do this at multiple levels. Like, we talk about Shedeur as if he's been playing daddy ball the whole time, as if he didn't play at Jackson State, turn that place into a winner, play at Colorado, turn that place into a winner. The 13 and 12 stuff really bothers me because you're taking 4 and 8 and you're smashing together with 9 and 4 and finish atop the Big 12 conference, and you're trying to make that a career. And I'm going, Okay, cool. They get there in year one. There's nothing. They double the win total, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about first game out the box. You beat the national title runner up on their home soil, and we act like that's not a big deal. Shedeur Sanders did that. He's the guy that found Dylan Edwards for the game-winning score. Can we talk about the man as if he's a winner? Can we talk about the man as if he's willing to sacrifice his body because that's what he did in that 4-8 season? I mean, put another way, the dude took 50 sacks and broke a vertebrae in his back. He broke his back, and he still came back the next year and was more prolific and was better. But the aura of playing as his father's son has just gotten bigger. I expected it to dim because that's usually what happens when guys get separated from that energy, right? Prime is in Boulder. Shedeur is in Cleveland. I thought that we would be done with this, but no. We're comparing him now to Brock Purdy, which, okay, cool. Brock Purdy played in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy is quarterback for one of the best teams in the NFL. I get the compliment there. But you're also telling me that you think that Brock Purdy is not as talented as some. Okay. I think Shedeur's more talented than Brock Purdy, but that's an opinion, right? The thing that I can tell you about Brock Purdy and Shedeur that they do have in common, especially when they both played in the Big 12, Purdy took care of the football. And he also led Iowa State to his first major bowl victory ever, 2020 Fiesta Bowl, and a win against Oregon. The thing that I think people forget that Brock Purdy has with the Niners and that he had at Iowa State was a running back. A running back. Brock Purdy had Breece Hall at Iowa State. Breece Hall was a unanimous All-American. Anytime I can hand the ball to the guy behind me and you fear him, my job as a quarterback is easier. Look at what he had. So I knock over my own damn microphone. Look at what he had with the Niners. Is that Christian McCaffrey behind him? Because that's what I think. Do my eyes deceive me? Now, I realize Quinshon Judkins is in trouble. And I realize Nick Chubb got traded. But give the man a running back for the first time in 4 years and let him cook. Now, also, that's the thing that I would say about Dillon Gabriel. You know what Dillon Gabriel had last year behind him? A 1,200-yard rusher named Jordan James. You can throw the ball all over the yard when you got somebody to hand the ball to. And oh, by the way, Shedeur still completed more than 70% of his passes when the defense was screaming pass. They had the worst run game in all of college football last year. They could not be trusted to run the football, which means that if he didn't throw the ball, the offense didn't work. What happens if you give him a balanced offense where you can pass the ball, but you can also run it too? I don't necessarily like banging the table about this stuff, but when we come up with these sorts of comparisons and we don't take into account other variables that matter on the football field, my analyst brain goes off. That offense that Kyle Shanahan runs is about misdirection. It's about running the football. If you are butt naked open, yeah, Brock Purdy ought to be able to hit. Is that George Kittle running down there? Because it looks like it. Come on now. Make me understand how Shedeur Sanders would not be a better quarterback with the same tools that Brock Purdy has. If anything, we're not aiming high enough when we talk about what Shedeur Sanders could be at Cleveland. But being the fourth-string quarterback and being the fifth-round draft pick and the youngest dude, quite literally, in that room, it's going to be an uphill battle for him to get on the field in the first place. So we may be getting ahead of this altogether. But I think it's important to recognize if he gets a shot, I expect he will play well, and it will be very difficult to get that man off the football field. let's talk a little bit about Coach Prime and his health, which he does not want to address publicly. I think Rick George got as close to it as anybody. But there was a column written by Pat Rooney at Buff Zone, right? 3 points column, which I think is a little edgy. So I'm going to give Pat his full 2 paragraphs here because I think it's important that he gets context before we start asking these questions that I'm about to ask, right? So what he wrote was, Coach Sanders didn't discuss his ongoing health issues during Big 12 Media Days earlier this month. Understandable. But the questions aren't going away just because Sanders wants them to. Whether Sanders discusses his extended spring-summer absence from campus when the Buffs open preseason workouts on July 28th remains to be seen. But at the outset of this 3rd season at CU, he already endured a litany of serious medical matters. In 2021, Sanders had a pair of toes amputated. In the summer of 2023, ahead of his first season with the Buffs, Sanders had 2 surgeries to address blood clots in his legs. We know about the surgeries because he told us. Okay? We don't know about any of the other medical history because he ain't told us. I also added here, find me an old football player who has not had major surgeries after the age of 40. Go ahead. Find them. Find me guys that don't have knee replacements, hip replacements. Find me guys that don't have arthritic hands. Find me guys that still run out the tunnel or can be trusted to run out the tunnel or don't waddle when they walk. Right? One of my best friends is former offensive lineman in the NFL, Jerry Ostrowski. Jerry does a podcast about the Bills that you should go check out. Jerry is one of my favorite people and quite frankly made room for me to get my solo sports talk show host locally. Like looked up at the program director and the owner of the radio station and said, hey, I'm going to go do something else, but RJ needs to get this spot. And I say this part. Jerry needs to move around before he moves around. Okay? But he would not trade any bit of his football career to get back anything that he has lost or perceived to have lost because Jerry lives a pretty cool life. I mean, his boys also played football. His boy Owen just got done playing at TU. He's going to finish his career at Northern Iowa where his big brother Jackson is a coach. It's living your best life. All while Jerry is also, a former All-American and got to play in Atlanta and Buffalo, loves Buffalo. And we'll talk my ear off about the state of Pennsylvania's football programs and teams, from the Philly Eagles to Penn State. And then every now and again, TU football comes up. I tend to believe, especially as I run into older football players that are much larger than I am, you're going to have these problems. You're going to have these physical ailments. It's going to suck. And I think maybe there's a part of Prime that has believed that anything he says about himself or anybody else is likely to end up getting talked about. Turns out, if he doesn't talk about it, that's going to continue to happen too. And we know that he has had, relationships with media that, he just doesn't trust some, and others he trusts quite a bit. Others he'll cite. But anytime something like this happens, I wonder how he will choose to address this, because it is one thing for people to speculate on what his health is. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to say, hey, Bucky was the first person to raise an alarm for me. And since then, Prime looks good. He was at Big 12 Media Days. He met all his commitments there, and he did a really good job advocating for the coaches and his idea of a salary cap. That he doesn't need to be around when it ain't time to be around doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. That's why you've got assistants. That's why you've got assistants, help with these matters. Why you got gym managers, why you got secretary, so forth, so that people can handle these things when it ain't your turn to handle these things. Because frankly, it's about winning football games. I don't think he needs to address his health. You know why I know this? Nick Saban had hip surgery. And almost as soon as the next damn day it felt, he playing golf. It happens. Why don't we talk about Bill Belichick's age? Why Why don't we talk about these 70-plus-year-old coaches' age? Because, well, they're not revealing to us their physical limitations. I mean, some of these are just seen. You're not going to ask Bill Belichick to run no 3 miles, run no 40-yard dash. Why is it important to us that Prime demonstrates that he is virile and healthy? Because it is important to so many that Prime demonstrates that he's supposed to be here. I still think that there are so many people that are not just upset with Prime being Prime. They're upset that he got here without having to pay dues, right? Perceived to pay dues. Get out of here, man. The dude is the youngest among the coaches in the Big 12 in as far as coaching career, right? Like Kenny Dillingham comes close, but Kenny Dillingham had been an assistant, quality control assistant, so forth, so on. But when it was time to ask someone to step up and say how we feel, Kyle Whittingham wasn't the guy that people looked at. Willie Fritz wasn't the guy that people looked at. Rich Rodriguez wasn't the guy that people looked at. They looked at Deion Sanders, who got started coaching college football in 2020. Had that 1 year to get on a good foot, go 4-3, and all of a sudden they win 12 games. Come again, they win 12 games. Damn, he gets to Colorado. Well, this big boy football, they go 4-8. Did you realize they went 2-10 the year before? Never mind. They went 9-4 after that. And now we're going into a summer where we expect Colorado to keep doing Colorado stuff, which is to say they don't necessarily think the end-all be-all is win the Big 12 conference. It will happen. It will help, right? Because everybody in that league is probably going to catch 2 losses. What they want is to make the college football playoff, but it is difficult to do that, catch 2 losses in the Big 12. That's where I want the conversation to be. I want the conversation to be about a Georgia Tech team that shouldn't nobody want to play, that they got to play, and how the atmosphere will feel when they play that game. But I don't think that pointing out that Prime has not spoken publicly about his health is any way to get him to talk about it. And honestly, as long as he's coaching football, I tend to think he's healthy. Until such a time as he says he's not, or we get evidence to the contrary, just leave it the hell alone. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Adapt and Respond. If you like the show, subscribe to it on YouTube, rate it, and subscribe to it on Apple and Spotify if you're listening on the audio podcast. And we will see y'all next time. We about to be really up and running and really going with this thing. It's about to get really cool.